Find my, oh, now Zoom's telling me I'm being recorded. Okay. We have to give consent now, apparently, to be recorded. Okay, so I will flip down to my table. So you should all receive the handouts today. And I am going to work on my layout again. So those of you that have joined us before know that I am working on my daughter Emerson's album. She is going to be a senior, and so I'm trying to get some stuff done for her books for graduation next year. I failed with my first one. I'm trying real hard for my second one. We'll see. So when I was working on this layout, I was pulling out pictures of her, and I had a lot of photos that she had sent me. This is the last day of school in 2017. It was end of 7th grade. And so I needed a layout that was going to allow me to put a bunch of photos down. I don't have much to journal. I'm not carrying her emotion and all that. So I really need a kind of wide open layout, which is very much my style. You'll notice I use a lot of photos. So for my layout tonight, I'm going to make this again, and you're going to need 2 base papers. I use this brown cardstock. You're not going to see a lot of it, but you want something that's going to contrast your second layer, which is what I punched the border maker out of. And then I use this print on top. I consider this more of a tonal print. It is 2 colors, but it's a polka dot. There's not a too distracting of a pattern. A good base for my photo. So I am using 3 sheets for each side. Those layers up as we go. So for tonight, I debated. So this girl loves to take pictures with her friends. And so I have, and like, you guys will love this. She took a selfie that day. This was literally her face. She was so upset. They were so upset on the last day of school, and they're all about taking selfies and sharing them. So she would kill me if she was here and I was showing everybody that. But I literally have like these 13 more pictures of them just taking poses by the trees. I don't have a lot of stuff with their friends. So I debated. I was telling Megan, it's like, do I want to do like a peekaboo cascade? Do I want to cut them all down? I decided actually I'm just going to make a whole nother set of layouts for her book with this. So I am using my brown cardstock base again. And then I went through the paper that I use. This polka dot paper came from a pack called So Chic. You'll notice that we use a lot of our older stuff. The So Chic was old CM. It had some pretty vibrant patterns that were pretty bold, actually. And so I had to pick through here. I was trying to pick out what to use for the second layout. I settled on this print, but it's a little bit neon green for me. So when I was choosing the papers to go with it, I wanted to tone down that as much as possible. It'll be covered by a lot of photos. It has a hot pink in there, but I didn't really want to add more vibrancy to the layout. I almost chose the light blue cardstock, and it really would have worked, but I felt like it didn't tone down this green as much. And so I actually settled on peacock. It's an old color from CM, but I thought, I don't know how well you can tell on your video, there is blue in this pattern. So the blue will kind of brown down that brightness. So that's one tip. If you are using vibrant, bold papers that maybe you're a little bit on edge of using anyways, the colors you use to accent can very much help or make it worse in your layout. You want to think about the color as you choose when you're trying to use bold patterns. And if you'll notice here on this layout, for those of you that just bought cardstock, this is, oh my gosh, I want to say lily pad. What is it? Moss, not moss.
Marsh green, something like that.
Marsh green. That's actually what this is. I just literally opened up the cardstock. We got out of the cardstock buffet this week because it went better with the green on this layout. Now the problem was on this print, I could not, the marsh was not going to do much to help me, as you can see in that layout. So color can definitely make a difference when you're trying to tone down the paper. So hopefully everyone got a chance to pull your papers out. My layout is pretty simple, so I'm going to get this through kind of fast. I suggest you get an edger border maker. So I'm using Scallop Dot. It's an old one from old CM, not in their original batch, but it was pretty close to it. But an edger is one that's just going to go along the decorative edge. A current example we have right now is Clouds. Clouds is pretty basic. If you don't have it, it's a very good one to have because you can adapt it to most layouts. But we've had a lot of edger punches along the way. If you don't have the border maker system, you could use the decorative trimmer and do kind of a swell or a wave, or you could use a 12-inch trimmer with one of the decorative blades. You're just going to need to adjust your measurements a little bit. And that's one thing too, we'll get to. You might have to adjust your measurements a little bit, the cutting, depending on how wide your pattern is. You could also do this with regular border punches. A lot of our regular border punches are going to stay on the edge, but they're a fatter design. So you would for sure have to adjust a little bit of it. So edge or border maker. So you don't need your bases. You can set your bases aside. I'm going to start with a cardstock. And I'm going to punch down the edge of both of my cardstock sheets. I don't know about you guys. A lot of times my cardstock ends up with bent corners. I always try to make sure those are the ones that I use for the punching. You might have scallop stitch if you've been around long enough, because it was one of the original border maker cartridges, and it would do a similar design. So we're done with the border maker. After that, you can put it away to the side, and you're just going to need your trimmer. So we're going to do 2 cuts with our trimmer. We're going to cut this down. So we're going to cut off this way. So your punched edge should be to the bottom, and you're going to cut off 1/2 inch. Before you cut, you can look, this is where you can customize depending on your design. For my design, my 1/2 inch actually is going to cut off one of these little scoops. Depending on the edger that you use in your design, you could go 1/2 inch is probably kind of the minimum so that you can mat inside your base. But if you have a design that maybe would look better if you trimmed a little bit more, then I would adjust based on that. Sometimes if you're using the bigger border maker or whatever, it looks better to have your paper a little bit smaller if it preserves your design. So for me, I'm doing 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to turn it 90 degrees. So my punched edge is going this way. I'm going to cut off 1/4 inch, which for me is about this gray line on the trimmer. I'm going to repeat that for my second paper. So let me know in the comments, what are some of the edge or border makers that you guys are using? We've had quite a few of them. And then we're going to grab your top print. So I'm telling you my measurements, but like I said, if you just changed how you printed or trim the bottom, then you might need to adjust this. So the goal of the layout is that you're cutting your print to frame inside here while allowing you to see this edge. So if you aren't sure, if you just adjusted your measurement, you can just grab your ruler. You can use even the ruler along the top of your trimmer. You can use your cutting mat and figure out at what point you want to trim to be about 3/8 to 1/4 inch inside each edge. For me, my measurements are 10 7/8 and 11 1/8. And if you have a print that matters, my print does not matter which way I hold it, but if you have a print that needs to sit a certain way vertically or horizontally, the 10 7/8 is going to be this way. So this first cut that I'm making on my print is going to be as if the paper is sitting down looking at you. 10 7/8. As a reminder, we have 16 little marks, and then we have 8 marks that are a little bit longer, and then you get your 1/4, and then you get your 1/2 inch here. So 7/8, it's 2 markings from the end. And then I'm going to turn it 90 degrees and do 11 and an 8. So if I did that correctly, it will fit inside my paper. The other way you might have to adjust it is if your pattern right here, how much of it you want to see. That's what I was saying. That's what's going to change. You might have to go skinnier, wider. I'm going to cut my second sheet. And some of you might be wondering why I'm not measuring over here. As some of you have probably figured out, not every paper is exactly 12 by 12. And so I want to make sure I really do have this measurement instead of just telling you to cut off a certain amount. That's why I'm making sure I have the right measurements left behind.
Tessa, could you repeat the measurements that you're doing for that?
Yeah, I could even show you the little things I actually made and didn't bring out here. So we cut off 1/2 inch, then 1/4 inch, and then it was 10 7/8 and 11 and an 8.
So the 1/2 inch and the 1/4 inch were from the cardstock.
Correct.
And then you're making the 10 7/8 by 11 1/8 is the statement print.
Correct. Yep. The 10 7/8 is this, and the 11 and an 8 is this. And that's to fit inside my cardstock, of which I trimmed here. I can show you how I took the picture. We cut 1/2 inch off the bottom. Then 1/4 inch off the edge. And so your statement print should mat exactly within the square left behind. I didn't even grab any tape runner, so I'm not gluing mine down. But this is the point. This is the point in the lesson when you would glue your paper down. And it layers on like this. So when I laid mine, I oriented my peacock all the way to the right edge so that I do get a nice view. I do want to see some of this contrast over here of my punch, so I can see the peacock in the brown. And then I centered the statement print on the inside of the peacock. And so I honestly, the color choices and just that little bit of punching makes me like my statement print so much more than I actually did start with. And then my opposite side, I would orient. So the peacock is going all the way to the center middle. I would be centered like that. Back over. So now I would have room. I didn't trim any of my photos yet because I wanted to kind of see how they laid out. And the other thing is I still have this right side of my layout to fill up. This was at school, and then all these pictures I have left are after school. And so I can put some on here, and then I have these. So I have my 13 photos here of all of her friends, her crying face. I honestly thought she was like dying when she came off the bus. I was like, what is wrong? What happened? Did you get hurt? No, it's the last day of school. Okay. So then I can go through and sort out and decide exactly which photos I want. The other reason why I did not choose the pink is because a couple of them were wearing red. And so I didn't want to, and she's wearing red. I didn't want to create that red pink dynamic. I'd probably do some clusters here. She's taking a And they have continued to do this. So if I get pictures from her, it will be really cute. I will have pictures of them. A lot of them have stayed friends. And still. So even at this, even with 3 pages, I will have to trim some of these down to fit. And so for the accenting, show you what I did. I don't know how many of you are diehard old CM and have all of the old school primary. Do you remember the primary school stickers? So I went through here, and sometimes Megan doesn't like these stickers. I don't mind them. I'll use them. But some of these, I'm like so excited to have reasons to use, like hanging out, after school fun. I never have after school pictures. And so I honestly had picked out the stickers first, and a lot of the primary style had some of this swirly design to it, which is why I was going for more of a feminine print. Really was because based on these stickers. And then I was like, what am I going to do with these stickers? The Sew Sheet set that I'm using came with 2 sticker strips. I have this strip, which is just floral, and then I had a sheet of these little things. I feel like sometimes these are kind of awkward to use. Circles or little tags. What do you put on those? And it actually worked out really well. My first layout. So on the layout I already had done, you can see this was a little oval, and I used the gang sticker I put on there. I was able to put the school is out one down here. These smaller titles actually came out of the 8x8 kit. If you guys remember those 8x8 album kits that we had, it would have the same titles, just smaller. And those are the ones that fit really nicely. My favorite teacher, you can't see it very well in the video down here. And then it has some of those corners. So I already have some of my other stickers picked out to accent with All Smiles After School Fun. So once I get my photos clustered on there, I can go through and add those on. So that was the inspiration and my thought process through the whole design. My goal to get as many of these photos on here as possible. I don't know about you guys, but I feel like because I'm scrapping this in hindsight, because it's been so many years now and I've watched these girls grow up, I want to keep all of the photos. Whereas if I had really done this probably in the more recent, right, as soon as this happened, I would have probably like cut some of them out. Oh, I don't need this many photos of them. But now this many years later, I think it's fun to have. So any questions? It looks like you guys listed. So we have Rolling Hills was a good one, Dips and Diamonds, Cloud, Zigzag Diamond. I almost pulled out Zigzag Diamond. It just wasn't quite feminine enough. The scallop border one, that is a good one. You probably had to cut down your paper a little bit more. Like Megan answered your question. So yes,
I'm not sure what this one is, but it worked really well because I'm doing Christmas pages.
That looks like Dips and Diamond.
There we go.
Yes, for the paper savers, you could cut out the middle of this and do it. I don't care so much about Save and Brown. And these, for the kids' books, I use top loading sleeves. So I'm going to slide this down anyways. It is a double layer of cardstock. I probably, if I was more of a paper saver, I would have cut the middle out of the marsh. But that's a little bit more effort than I was willing to go into today for this. But if you did not, I don't know what's left, but the cardstock buffet, it has something left, they said, because they're going to extend until the quantities are gone. So if you didn't get the marsh green, it's still available. You should grab
I think the only color that was sold out that I last looked was the robin egg.
Robin eggs.
Yeah. So yeah, to plug the product, I went back and ordered more of that marsh green and the paprika, because I felt they were 2 colors that were definitely missing from our lineup.
Yeah, I think the honey mustard too, because we all know I hate goldenrod, so anything but was better than having a bunch of goldenrod sitting around. Okay, well, that is mine. So Kathy's questions. It does not, because you still have 2 layers of paper, I don't think you're going to feel like your page is sinking. I've never noticed that. And I have cut out the middle of other things. Have you ever noticed that, Megan?
No. I've never, I mean, our designer paper is already fairly heavyweight to begin with. I mean, it's not super heavyweight, but it's good. And I don't say, because I use the top loading as well, and you could just put a regular piece of paper, you know what I mean? Like you could just put a designer paper in there without it feeling like it's sagging or anything. So
Okay, what's your turn? That was my easy warm up for all of you. And now you can put on your thinking caps.
Oh, now.
Megan always has some good trick for us to have to work through. That's looks hard, and you kind of have to think about it, and then suddenly you realize how easy it really is. And that's the magic of Megan.
Well, hi, everybody. Yes, I'm Megan Jacks. I'm here in just north of Seattle in Washington State. I'm actually watching a storm roll in. So we'll see. My husband is up playing Little League with my youngest child. So we'll see if they come home soaking wet. But I do have a fun layout for you today. Hopefully it's fairly straightforward. We don't want to make you think too much here in the summer. We all want to get outdoors or, kind of enjoy what's left of the afternoon, evening. It's only 5:30 here, so I've got a little bit more to my day after this. But this layout, I am using the new Botanical Burst. This sample was done with the Botanical Burst green. I do not have the depth of old creative memories in my stash like Tessa does. So it was by far easier for me just to grab something new, to play with it, to get a feel for it. And so I really like this. You would want a piece of designer paper that you like both sides of. This paper worked really well because one side, they had a nice contrast compared to each other. And one side was going to give me that nice foundation to put photos on however I wanted. And then I was going to have the statement prints here kind of as acting as like a pseudo border on the outside to really frame those photos into place. So the sample I'm going to make today is, I'm having a moment. I chose my paper. Oh, this is what I get, Tess. I shouldn't clean.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. I'm so mad. Where is it? I'm supposed to be using Blend and Bloom blue. And
This is what happens when we don't have a practice run either.
Well, I know, because I'm usually supposed to be able to mess up the first one. Oh my gosh.
It just gives them a chance to get their other.
Yes, please take your time. Grab what you need. I was using Blend and Bloom green Blend and Bloom blue. And I bet I know where I put it.
I was telling Megan, we're doing a summer challenge too, and I had already done one of the layouts she posted, and I cannot find it in here, and all it's doing is making me mad. I've been through like every tote, every container, like I knew where it was about 6 months ago. The things got cleaned up, and now I have no idea. And she's like, well,
I was starting to, after I set that aside, I got out the new United We Stand papers because I was playing with a border, the new border, and I kind of just collected it all and put it in the project folder. So I am going with like I said, I live in Seattle, so I'm going to make a whole layout all about rain. I haven't taken the photos yet, but it's going to be, I think I'm going to give my little guy next time it rains an umbrella and just let him go out and have some fun with it. Which will probably turn into like whacking things with it or something. So he's 6 and he likes to pretend everything is a sword of some sort. So I have this lovely paper. It is, nice tonal on one side. It has that designer, that print on the other. And so the thing that you're going to need, you need 2 sheets of that. Of your designer paper that you like both sides of. You will want your decorative trimmer. And you will also want a kind of a contrasting or coordinating cardstock of some sort. You could be another designer paper. You can see here in this original one that I did, I've got this contrasting paper here that I use. It's a cardstock. And I'm going to be using that to cover up my seam. If you peeked at the directions, you'll see we're going to do a little bit of this paper welding. So it's going to be a big paper weld though. So you're going to want to have an extra piece of cardstock of some sort. I usually just use one of the white sheets that's originally, I think, just a white piece of cardstock. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to grab my first piece of designer paper, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fold it in half. Now, here's the thing. Before you go folding, you want to make sure, check to see if you have a direction to your pattern. I do. One of my sides here has a direction to it. I want to make sure my rain is falling down when I make my layout. So I need to make sure the tops of my clouds are pointing up. And that will come into play as we go along here. So I wanted to make sure I was using a directional paper, because for this layout, you do need to pay attention to directions. If you have a non-directional paper, it doesn't matter. But I have a directional pattern here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fold my lay of my paper, and I'm going to fold it in half. And I'm actually going to go ahead and fold it with my directional pattern sticking out so that I can see it. So I'm making sure that my clouds are going to be going the right direction, that the top is here. And I'm going to go ahead and just fold it in half. So the next thing we're going to do is you're going to grab your decorative trimmer. And I want you to look at your decorative trimmer. If you do not have a decorative trimmer, you can do this with a straight cut. I am going to be using the 30-degree line on my decorative trimmer. There is a 30-degree line. If you can look here on the edge, you'll see it. It says 30 degrees, and there's a line in the trimmer bed that shows that 30 degrees. So you want to make sure you can find that on your decorative trimmer. If you are just using your regular trimmer, if you have Tessa, on the old blue ones that you insist on still using, does it have the 30-degree mark?
Yes.
Yes, I don't have mine over here. My straight one does, the one I love.
Yes, I know that one that you insist on using.
It does.
The old blue one does have it.
Okay, so if you have the old blue one or an older white, or the more recent but still no longer available white one that's a straight trimmer, you'll have a 30-degree line, and you might want to go ahead and use it for this particular layout. No. If you don't, you can still use your rotary trimmer, but what you're probably going to do is you're going to go ahead and make a 45-degree cut, which is just going to give you a little bit more. If you imagine the opening as like an alligator, your alligator bite is going to be a little bit more aggressive, but it'll still look fine. So I am going to be using the decorative trimmer, and I've got my paper here. I've got my folded edge at the bottom. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open my trimmer, and I'm going to, my pattern is going up at this point. So my pattern direction, let me write this down. I threw away my other Post-it note, is going to be going upwards. So if you have a pattern that you're worried about, make sure it is pointed this direction. 30-degree line I've lined up. Then I'm going to be coming in here at the bottom between my wavy and my swell edge. I'm going to come down here, and I can see a number 4. That actually refers to 4 centimeters. But what I want you to pick out is the fact that there's a line right next to that 4. And that's where you're going to take this bottom corner, and you're going to line it up at that 4, the line that it corresponds to that 4. And you're going to want to make sure your swell blade, which is the right hand blade, is up here at the top. We're always going to, when we cut this, we're going to cut from the top down, because it's hard to start with that folded edge, but when we can come in here from the top, it works a lot better. I'm just double checking to make sure I'm keeping my 30-degree line here. I've got my corner at the 4 centimeter line. I'm going to go ahead and pull my blade down and make that cut. So now I've set my trimmer aside just for a second, and I'm going to show you that's the gist of what we just did here. We are just using the decorative trimmer to give us a little bit of oomph to an angled cut. And so we're going to go ahead and set these pieces aside for the moment. We'll come back and get them all paper welded together. If you're working directly on an album page, you wouldn't have to do a paper weld. You could just stick them right on the album. We're going to grab that second sheet of designer paper. Once again, I've got I'm going to go ahead and fold it so I can see my pattern. I'm making sure that my pattern is oriented the correct direction. I certainly wouldn't want to fold it this way because then I'm going to have sideways cloud. And we do get, well, we don't really get sideways rain here. But I'm going to have those clouds going upwards. So I'm going to fold it in half. And I'm basically, well, for this part, I'm repeating those steps. I've repeated that I'm folding it in half. So Ellen, if you have the old trimmer and you're not 100% sure where that 4 is, I know it's kind of dark to see, there should be the line that is between, if you look between the swell here and the back side, or excuse me, this wave here, the crest of the wave and the back side of the swell edge, there's going to be a line. And that groove line is the one you want to line up with. So I've got my piece, my trimmer piece here, or I've got my trimmer back in place here. Now here's the thing. I need to keep my folded edge towards me, folded edge down, but I'm going to flip my paper over. So now my pattern direction is no longer going up. My pattern direction is going down. This is so that I can make my right hand page. My pattern direction, I'm making my opposite page, so I need my pattern direction to go down. It all works out in the end, I promise. So once again, I'm going to repeat the same placement using that 30-degree line. And repeating the 30-degree line. And then I'm going to come down here. I've got that corner at that, what is, that 4 cent, the 4 line, I guess you call it. And I forgot to move my trimming blade back up to the top. Don't try to cut starting at the fold. It doesn't work well. And Chantel, yes, if you do not have a pattern, you can pretty much repeat the other one. If you have the pattern, the first time you cut, the pattern needs to be going up. The second time you cut, the pattern needs to be going down. All the cuts, you need to have the folded edge towards you. And no, Candace, you don't need to do a super hard crease. No, you can do, it just needs to be enough that you can get it underneath there. I sometimes probably over crease it just because I don't want it to shift. Like I don't want this up here to somehow shift and whatnot. So I got my 30-degree line. I'm here at my 4 centimeter line, and I'm going to go ahead and make my second cut. And I've got my pieces. So now when I open this up, I'm going to flip them around. This gets flipped around. By folding it in half, we naturally have everything nice and centered. So you can see how this is going. So there is the overall thing that we've created. Now what we want to do is we want to put our 2 halves together. So in the directions, I tell you to go ahead and you're going to, well, actually, I forgot to put it in the directions. So we will be sending out a revised edition of the directions. You need to cut, I believe it's a 2 4.5-inch strips. Can be just whatever extra paper you have. I use top loading pages, so I always have a lot of white cardstock. If you've never used the top loading pages, the white cardstock that comes in there that is to stabilize it during packaging and whatnot. You don't have to leave that in when you fill the pages. You can take it out. It just becomes white cardstock for you to use. And that 4.5 inches for this width should work fine. You can grab your adhesive and on these smaller pieces on the side, I'm going to go ahead and just put it on the edge. And you can see here, we've got that nice. And I'm not normally a fan of the crease here in the middle, but what I realized is when you start slapping photos on it, you really don't have to see that much of the crease. So lighter, I find to me that lighter cardstock colors are good, or lighter patterns, you know, so like more, lighter toned patterns are gonna do a little bit better with the crease. But like you can try it without doing a hard crease if that really bothers you. So I'm going to go ahead and put together the other side. And then the next thing I'm going to do is after I put this together, I am going to grab my coordinating cardstock. And you're going to need to make some thin swell ribbon trim. I don't know what you want to call it. Thin strips with your swell edge.
I don't know, Megan, that was a lot of tape.
You know, it probably was. I'm not gonna, I think I got a little aggressive this weekend when I was doing the virtual crop, my layouts for that, because I went through more of my repositionable tape than I thought I should have. So I may have to start being a little better about that. And using, I probably should have used permanent, to be honest. But it is what it is. So here we've got it all. And depending on your edges here, you wouldn't have to add it. I do prefer to add that little bit of trim. I think it's a nice detail. And like I said, I'm using Blend and Bloom, which was from a couple of years ago. And I grabbed the Starry Night shimmer paper. Can you flip the left and right so that I can see it? I don't know that I understand, Michelle.
What if you reversed them so that the blue were on the
Oh, yeah. You have a nice hourglass effect. That's kind of fun. Ooh, sands of time or something. Oh, look at that.
Actually, it looks like a stage curtain.
Yeah, it does. It does. It kind of has that. Well, okay. So I will show you when we're done. I will show you. I actually, when I first was experimenting with this whole concept, because it was one of those things in my head that I wasn't sure was going to work out great. I don't like to fold paper if I don't think the end result is going to be worth it. So anyway, we're going to come back. I'm going to put this edging detail on here, and then I'll show you something else that I did that was kind of fun. So I have just a piece of this Starry Night shimmer paper. I like this. It has a tonal blue that matches really well with the blended, this blue. So I'm going to go ahead and trim, and I'm going to make 4 of these, and you can make it whatever width you want. I generally just go out one groove in front of the swell edge. Is generally how big I make each one of my ribbons. So it's roughly 1/4 inch. Each one of these grids on the decorative trimmer is 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and make 4 of them. And I'm only going to put 2 on. I'll show you how to do that because I do want to show you a couple other things. because I don't know if you realized it, but there is, there's a second edge on this decorative trimmer, and you could always use the wavy edge instead of the swell. And on the directions, I do give you the measurements of where to line things up, but I'll walk you through it. I'm going to make the opposite page for the one I did yesterday as my sample. So here I have my 1/4 inch little ribbon things. So Angela, I'm going to get to that United We Stand sample, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So I have my pieces here, my little ribbon pieces, and you can see they're going to line up and they're going to look oh so lovely. You could, when you do these, you could go all the way to the edge and then trim them here so you get that crisscross effect if you wanted to. And if you don't, then I do give instructions in there. You can do kind of that faux miter thing where you just use some scissors and snip them so that they are to get them nice and even with each other. So I'll line this up. I just put a little bit of repositionable adhesive on here. So keep going there. So now I have them crisscrossed here in the middle, and then I'm just going to grab my scissors and I'm just going to kind of lift up and work my scissors underneath and trim from corner to corner here. And then I just pull off the extra bits, and I've got a nice mitered edge there where they meet up. Works perfect. Snip off the overflow here. And then you've got this part done. Now you do have some space. You've got some space along this edge if you wanted to add an additional detail here. So if you wanted to run a border maker cartridge or a border strip or something at the edge, you've got some room here to do so. I'm not going to put on my other side. I'm going to save that. I'll take care of that later. I'm going to switch over and show you how to do this with the wavy edge of the trimmer. So here's my sample, and I pulled off all the extra little bits with the wavy edge. So, and I did interweave 2 different colors of the ribbon. And so I think it's kind of fun to do. So I don't have a directional paper here. At least I don't think it's directional. I think I can go any direction with this. Yes, I was just making sure that that they didn't sneak a directional in there that I wasn't paying attention to. Oh, they did, ever so slightly. If you're working with this particular pattern, no, they didn't. Never mind, ignore me. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and fold my paper in half again. And I'm going to try it with just giving this one side a crease over here. We're going to see how well this works out. I'm going to grab my decorative trimmer and I'm going to feed my paper in. Now I'm going to be sticking over a little bit more, so I think I'm going to have to fold my paper a bit more. So for this one, what I need to do is I need to actually feed it all the way through, and I'm going to come over at the very bottom here. You will see the number 3, and that's 3 inches. Then what we're going to do is we're going to come over 1 extra quarter inch, one extra groove to that 3 inch, or so it's 3¼ inches. The very bottom is the 3, and I'm coming over to 3¼ and that lines up with this line, a quarter inch past the straight edge of my wavy guide. And then I still need to make sure I'm lined up here at 30 or the 30 degrees. So 30 degrees. And then I'm going to just slide this down until I get that corner lined up at 3¼ inches. Like I said, I do not have a directional pattern here, so I'm not worried about which direction things are going. If you do, you just repeat the same, the thing we talked before. One cut, the pattern's going up. The other one, the pattern is going down. Your folded edge will always remain at the bottom. And I look good. I've got my blade here at the top. I'm going to go ahead and cut. So there. Yeah, that worked out pretty good, only folding part of it. So you might want to give that a try. And there we go. And I'm going to go ahead and trim another piece of white cardstock to put this whole thing together. If you've already printed it and you don't want to print it, because I will need to update it to add this step. If you've already printed the instructions and you don't want to print them again, just make yourself a little note that you need to paper weld it. And it's a 4½ inch piece of paper, will allow you to get those pieces together super easy. So here, I'm going to use regular tape runner. And I know I won't need to use nearly as much. That's all nice and lined up there. So now I've got as such. Rhonda, I'm the exact same way. I use repo almost all the time. In fact, I get really mad when I have my regular out and I'm working and I grab the wrong one and all of a sudden I've slapped a repositionable regular all over a border. And I'm sitting there with my multi-purpose tool, like picking it off. Nothing makes me like want to hurl my regular tape runner someplace far away where I won't touch it again. So for this to make the border over here, I use, it maybe it's a little hard to see. I'm going to get this in the light, you can see. I use navy and the Starry Night Shimmer to get me that two-tone. The Starry Night Shimmer has just this beautiful shade of blue that works so perfectly with this collection. And how fun is it that we have red, white, and blue shimmer paper available right now? So you can do all sorts of projects with it and not worry about running out of your precious cardstock buffet limited edition stuff. So you obviously are going to have to use the swell or the wavy side to make your ribbons. So I'm going to do a quick one here to get, I don't have the right swell edge going. And I'm going to do the same, roughly about 1/4 inch, maybe not quite 1/4 inch here. You just want them to be as even as possible. So when you're making them, is you're making sure each side is roughly the same. And then I will grab my Starry Night Shimmer and make another thin another thin edge or another thin ribbon piece here. All right, so now I have my two pieces of paper. So now to do this, you want to twist them together. Oh, I needed two sets. I'm only going to do half because we're kind of running a little short on time. You'll kind of get the gist. You'll just want to like twist them together ever so slightly so that you like the overall layout. Now, here what I'm going to do. This, I can tell this is the front side because I can see my cut edge. You know, sometimes that cardstock will get a little bit of that. You can tell it's the back side's like the cut side or whatever. So what I'm doing here is I am just making sure that I like my spacing. You know, I'm trying to get it as even as possible. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold it in place. I'm going to use my repositionable. If you don't have repositionable, it might be a little difficult to do this. And I'm going to come across each one of those seams. And that's going to kind of help lock it in place a little bit. And then I'm going to take this over to my layout. And when I lay this on my border, I am using the navy is what's going to line up with this edge. So I'm going to be lining this up using the navy to guide placement. Here we go. So the navy is following the edging of the paper. And then I'm just going to kind of tack it down. I maybe should have added a little bit more repositionable, but I think it's going to be okay. That stuff ends up being pretty tacky after a while. Then all I would need to do is do the same thing the other direction and then come in here with my scissors and make sure that I cut those appropriately. Sandy, yes, if you did not keep the folded edge to the bottom, it would end up, they would cut the wrong direction. And it would cut a little bit. You would have it go, so you come from the outside corner in and then back out. So like a letter the other way. So if that's what happened, you just need to get that folded edge to the bottom, stays on the bottom for both, when you do both cuts. So one thing I want to show is when I was messing around with it, this is from the All My Love collection, and I grabbed a piece of paper that I had left over at it, and that's where I was messing around cutting it in half. That's where I realized I was gonna have an issue with my direction, like the directional print, and I needed to make sure that I was explaining to you how to handle the directional print because you're making opposites. But you can see here, I did it all just on one page, which I actually thought was kind of fun. And one thing you can do is you could, if you did a single page, you could actually rotate it like this. Now I have a directional print, so my, like all of a sudden the writing here is going the wrong way. But if you can kind of imagine like what this would look like if you had two right next to each other, I thought that would be kind of a neat thing to kind of experiment with, to try to play with. So there's lots of options to do with this. I will tell you, grab some extra pieces of paper. Playing around with the designer paper is a little bit easier to get you to conceptualize the front and the back, the way that works together. Cardstock is a little harder to fold. So anyway, that's kind of it. Are there any questions on what I explained? I will have the updated directions tomorrow. Whenever we send out the video and everything. So let me put my other layout back up there just in case. I'll put the one that I did originally. So there's the first one that I did. So just having more fun with the decorative trimmer. You guys have probably figured out that I do enjoy that decorative trimmer. I'm going to toss this back over to Tessa. And
Okay. This is fighting with my cats. I'm like, no, we're not eating right now. They think we need to eat at 9 o'clock sharp. Wait. Anyways, thank you all for joining us tonight. We I know a lot of you know the drill, but we like to see what you make. So you want to post them in the Creative Memories, Ideas, and Inspiration group. I know a lot of you are already members. If you are not, I will put the link in the email that comes out tomorrow so that you can join and share what you have made tonight. We love to see all the different combinations. And while you guys were doing Megan's, I was putting photos on my page. So I will post mine there tomorrow also. For those of you that want more, next Tuesday night, we are doing Botanical Burst class. It's $10. It's a borders class. We decided before we came on live tonight, we're giving up on the flower embellishment. So we're going to be using the Botanical Burst paper next week. And then we will be using the leaf punches and just flower punches out of our stock that you can use embellishment flowers whenever they might come out of Chicago to Minnesota. Megan is also using the must-have titles that have a lot of the same colors in Botanical Burst. So if you have those, you will see those also. So it's a great deal, $10 to get the borders, the PDF, the recordings. That's next Tuesday night. A lot of you are in our summer scrap challenge, which we're doing right now, which is fun. Any of you that are in it can hopefully give us good feedback in the comments, but it's $35. It's 8 weeks, 2 challenges every week. You can share a lot of that also. And you can find those details on our website, meganandtessa.com. So thank you for joining us. July Power Hour of July 20th. And that will be scheduled out tomorrow also. But all of you will already get the information. You do not have to sign back up. You're already subscribed. Don't unsubscribe to an email we send you, because then I cannot fix you and you will not get Power Hour notifications. We really don't send a lot of stuff out, but don't unsubscribe, because MailChimp tells us I can't do anything with you to do that. So we are working on also, a lot of you guys ask us for past content. Megan is doing a lot of our IT work behind the scenes. So in a few weeks later this summer, we will have our downloads available. So those of you that missed past Power Hours will be able to access those also. So that is new and up and coming also. So I think that's it. Botanical Burst, Summer Scrap Challenge, Power Hour, July 20th. Am I forgetting anything, Megan?
No, I would just let them know. Everybody should be on the lookout around July 1st. We will try to be July 1st, sending out the email that will have the Zoom information, that will have any other stuff that's going to be coming up that we need you guys to know about. And so if you get that email July 1st, you are good to go. You don't need to subscribe. If you just don't unsubscribe. If you are seeing us pop up into your spam folder or something like that, drag it back over to your inbox so that it doesn't get routed again. And yes, it is going to be 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific.
And that's like 10 or something. Now I forget what it is in Australia. 10 or 12 or 2 or something on Saturday afternoon or Wednesday afternoon. Okay, well, 10 a.m. in Australia tomorrow. Okay, well, thank you all for joining us. When you're done, go post them, and we will love to see them and we'll see what you share. So thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye.
Thank you.